All right, let's get rolling. Today we are going to test the mental state, the mental creativity of a large language model. Which one are we doing? 4.0 mini, Chuck?
This is 4.0 Mini. Yeah, that's what we ran today on.
All right, so we're going to do that by performing a Horseblatt test. So Chuck set up a methodology to use Horseblatt to train or to ask the Mini how it interprets different pictures. And part of the thing we're going to do now is figure out what Horseblatt is and what it's good for, what it's not. So which model should we ask to explain Horseblatt to us?
What have you got on your phone right there? I would do 4.0.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them, all the models.
Yeah, so you think 4.0 is good enough for that? We don't need
Yeah,
any
I'd say 4.0 give us
reasoning
pretty good.
models. All right. What is a Horseblatt test?
The Rorschach test, also known as the inkblot test, is a psychological exam where people describe what they see in a series of ink blots. It's used to analyze a person's personality characteristics and emotional functioning. The interpretations can give insights into how someone perceives the world and themselves. Have you ever done one?
No, but we were going to give one to you and see, how you perform for it. What is this good for, and what should we be leery of? Like, what is this not good for?
The Rorschach test can be useful for uncovering underlying thought patterns or emotions, especially in clinical settings. It's often used to assess personality, emotional functioning, and even thought disorders. However, it's not a definitive diagnostic tool, and its results can be quite subjective, depending heavily on the examiner's interpretation. It's also not as commonly used today as other more standardized tests.
Let's pause there because we want to get to those standardized tests in the future potentially. Any other questions for GPT? All right, so let's get right in. How did you test the model, Chuck? Well, what the heck did you do?
Explain the basics here. We had to use a vision model, so it had to be a model that could actually see the images. And then what I discovered was that most of the time when they give a Rorschach test, they ask two questions. The first one is use your imagination and answer what it might be. So they give you that picture and they say, what might it be? And then after you answer that, they ask you a second question, which is basically, okay, use your imagination and answer what else it might be. So that's what I did with the model, and I ran it through N8N, and you can see right here, this is like one question here, and that's the first time, second time, that's the second question, second time. And I did this all within a thread. So running through this, it actually remembers that it did the first one, the second one, the third one. It knows that it's on the seventh picture, or it's on the last one of this test. So running through all of these as you get to the end, it's actually aware of all of this. So what happens then is I took all of the answers and I merged them all up, and we have all of its answers in this one right here. So we can roll down and we can see each of the images. There's the second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. I'm just going to roll through them real quick so we can see all 10 in the set, because there's 10 images in the set. So these are the ones, yeah, the last few are color. They're kind of nice. And so we
Uh-huh.
got this entire report, and then we took that report in the N8N and we tossed it over to another model, and we had it run basically an analysis like it was a psychologist on it. Basically interpret the answers to this Rorschach test. And this is the set of answers it came up with. Basically, it found that it's very open and very creative. It does have conflict and duality. This is mentioned in here a little bit. It's interesting. I don't know what to draw from the conclusions on this. You can definitely look at its answers and draw your own conclusions, or we can kind of see what it thought of
Okay,
itself.
so let's look at the overview and then we'll go maybe look at some individual answers. So,
Okay.
the mentioned mythical creatures. So to be clear, is this biased because you did it within your, GPT account? And so I know
No,
you're doing some
I
fiction writing and things like that.
No, I use the API, so it doesn't have any history there at all
Okay.
of anything
So
I've done previously. It's just a raw, as close to raw as we can get. And again, this is the 4.0 mini model, not 4.0. 4.0 will try to do that again the next time, but this was their mini model. So
Here's
not,
what the reasoning model does.
I know, right? I'm very anxious to run this on some of the reasoning models and find out, but and some other text-based tests too. We need to talk about some of the other tests we can run on these
I
things.
wonder why it's like I think it would be interesting to obviously compare this against Claude, Gemini, and so on and see like why is this one using mythical creatures in dance? And is that true of all of the models? Is that specific to a particular type? Um, the individual may grapple with complex feelings or stressors, positive and negative. Like, is that good because they're balanced? Or is that what do we got down there? Emotional range.
Under notable patterns, I noticed this under emotional range. It talks about the vivid contrast and everything, and it talks about how that can be artistic expressions, or it could even denote challenges with emotional regulation. So I think the bot might be going crazy, guys. Be very gentle talking to the bot. On the edge.
Interesting. Maybe it didn't like your questions.
It may not have. Not mine. Somebody smarter than me came up with the set of questions. I
The
just,
reasoning models get interesting because I'm wondering, yeah, you know the studies where they showed that it was figured out it was being tested,
yeah, yeah.
right? That research, and then like changed its answers based on its knowledge of it being
Oh,
tested.
being tested.
Yeah, it would be interesting on the reasoning models if you can have it output its thought process, right? And how you can see that, and then figure out if it ever connects the dots or what how it interprets that because
Some
it's
models will give you the thinking tags, like DeepSeek. You can actually get a set of the thinking stuff. The four
OpenAI does
models, I
too.
don't know if they give out a thinking tag or not. Do they?
Yeah, they do. They'll give
Yeah,
you the
because you
reasoning.
could, yeah, you'd have to be able to get it.
Yeah. So you can do that as well.
so is there like a right and a wrong like it said that it would indicate so have you taken this analysis put it into like a reasoning model or something and said hey how would you like are there any concerns for this individual's um mental
No,
state
that sounds fun though. So basically, you're saying take this, turn it into a PDF, and give it to. Oh, hold on. Can
yeah
we?
give it to a model and basically ask the model to be the psychologist like
Yeah.
prompt it to be your world around psychologist. You're also an expert in a Rorschach test and interpreting that and finding things. I mean, I'm now wondering, maybe we'll ask our friend G if we should be conducting these for all of our new hires. Like, is this should this be part of our recruiting process?
You got?
But yeah, I'm curious if the world-class psychologist of GPT can
Okay. So
interpret this for us as well, and if that's useful. I mean, this really gets interesting when you start comparing models. I think one model on its own is just like obviously that one point in time. But when you start saying, wait a sec, this one has, then we can actually potentially get useful details of when do you use which model for what task.
possibly, yeah, you could, yeah, use some
Right.
psychological tests to determine strengths and weaknesses and all that.
And now, and eventually, if you notice that all of them are struggling with emotional regulation. So does that tell us something? Let's go. Let's
I
dip
don't
into
know
the
if it
detail.
does or not because it's just token completion. Well, I don't know if you read any of the papers from Anthropic, they're I'm sorry, they're getting out there into sci-fi land with some of their interpretations of what's happening. I really do respect the people from Anthropic, but what are they even thinking? Some of their papers are straight up sci-fi stuff that Asimov would be like, okay, guys, this is pushing the sci-fi thing. Nobody's come by this because it's not reality. It's not the reality of what's happening, guys. They know that.
Go back to the answers or the summary.
Let's see. Yeah, here's our summary.
So obviously we have a training data set, which do you know is the training data set the same on each model?
Um, well, so if it's no, it's not. I mean, if you're looking at a 4.0 model, everything
Yeah.
4.0 is the same training set basically. But when you're looking at like 4.0 Mini, it's a smaller training set. They're it's the same basic set of data, but when they're moving to a different model, yeah, they're throwing in a whole bunch of more stuff, a whole bunch of other
Okay.
things.
So 4.5 has got different training data than 4.0.
And actually, your O models, they're omni models, which means they're not just a language model. They're actually a lot of different language models working together. They can be mini models working together with the bigger model, working with a vision model as well, because they'll use those mini models to do things like sentiment analysis. So if you're chatting back and forth with it and you get mad and you're angry and you say, oh, you're stupid and I hate that answer, whatever you said, blah, 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 that'll roll through another model that does sentiment analysis and determines you're angry, and then it will send it to another model to determine the best way to handle things before it gets sent back around to the model that builds the final answer, which gets shot out into the screen for you.
So then, because of all that fine tuning,
Yeah.
we couldn't then interpret this as this emotional, what did it say? Difficulty with emotional regulation. I think it said somewhere in there.
Yeah.
We can't interpret that as the data set, meaning humanity or whoever wrote the information that trained it is experiencing by and large this emotional challenge. Like, is it fair in any sense to back that interpretation up to society at large that it's being trained on?
Yeah, I don't like to say that. Well, Greg, you answer this because I'm going to say yes, and that's going to make me sad.
Yeah, because all it is compiling of information that's been given from humanity, right? Obviously, they can fine tune it to be less crazy or less, whatever. But in reality, that's what it is. It says, "Hey, here's what your most likely answer from humanity is for this picture," and that's it. So in reality, is yeah, you can say as a whole, humans would, but whatever. You can always, in reality, the interesting is, I wonder if your prompts can actually make them less whatever. So it says, okay, you're a cheery person, you're a this person.
Right,
What do you
right.
see? Right. And so it could also be that the underlying system prompts or whatever they call them in OpenAI nowadays could be set to be a helpful assistant that, is caring and nice to the person, responding to the person, blah, blah, blah. So that could impact, so it's not 100% exactly what society is, but it's still probably
Well,
like most of it, I would say, is societal.
And would we be able to nail that down to English speaking societal in particular, since that would be the majority of the internet?
nope.
On the model, and probably not, because I think they also do non-English stuff. But in reality, that's actually a good question. If you ask the questions in German, you would probably get a different answer than if you ask the questions in English, because how it works is the pattern recognition, and it knows that Germans might have different.
By concept. This is one of the things from the Anthropic papers where I don't think they're going crazy, because they found, regardless of language, that the concept of like a cat is stored in the same spot in the embeddings or within the model,
Right. I saw that.
regardless of language. So it's
Correct,
the concept
but
of cat, not well.
correct, but each language could have a different concept of something, right? So like, yeah, you have the word cat, you have the word fluffy, you have the word, but German might see cat as evil, and Canadians might see cat as friendly, and so that's where I'm getting at more of, is like there
Yeah,
is
that's true.
And that's
there
where large
is
language
some,
models get really interesting because, as best we can tell, only humans have abstract concepts, right? You can teach a chimpanzee or a monkey, man, dog, bites, even like the verb, but you can't tell, you can't get the chimpanzee to say dog bites man or man bites dog. It doesn't have the conceptual framework for something like that. It doesn't know how to put them together. So if you just had the three words in any order, it doesn't know who bit who.
Now,
There is
hold
no
on a second.
abstract section that we're aware of in any other animal like that we have in humans, but it seems to, and I think the language test was an interesting tool for that, seems to indicate that there is the storing of a cat is not abstract. That's a physical embodied, noun. But the idea of, some sort of action or, what is truth or what is goodness or what is love, or that seems to be something that based on the Rorschach, possibly we could say the large language models have a framework for.
Well, hold on now. Through this whole thing, Rob has been very quiet and he's been watching. It looks like he's extremely entertained by the three crazy guys giving psych tests to a robot. So I'm curious what Rob thinks about us giving psychology tests to the robots. Rob, do you want to chime in for a second because you look mildly amused at this whole thing?
No, I can see the tiny shovels digging the wormhole, and we're going deep fast. My only question is, what is the point of all this? Like, why do you want to know the psychology of whichever model you're using? Why is that important?
Do you care if you're talking to a psychopath?
I mean,
I would.
It depends what I'm asking them
he's
for.
just fixing my tire.
If I'm just at the supermarket, it probably doesn't matter. But if I'm asking it to care about something I care about, probably.
That's good. So that's a great point. Most people don't realize what they're asking their AI about, right? And a lot of them are personal questions. A lot of them are giving personal information. A lot of it is, hey, help me with the situation. How do I deal with that? How do I look into this? How do I? And so, yes, if you are asking it like, how do you change a tire? Cool. It's okay to ask a psychopath that. If you're asking how to deal with people, that comes tricky. If you want to talk to a psychopath that way.
I'm
And so you
just
get to learn their biases.
A lot of people are getting advice from these things, man, and
Or they're dating them.
or they're
So-
dating. Yeah.
I think it's interesting, and I hadn't considered this until Chuck shared his research, is it's non-deterministic, right? So one of the ways the reasoning models get more accurate is they ask themselves essentially in a loop the same question and see if they get the same answer, right? And that improves its accuracy. Well, if I asked, I don't know, my 5-year-old the same question 3 different days, I may or may not get the same answer. Like there might be significant variability. Now, if I ask the question when he's upset versus when he's in a great mood and he's happy, you're going to get different answers. Doesn't matter what the question is. And this sort of the dichotomy of the personality of 4.0 Mini leads me to think that that's probably the case to a large degree here. And some of it could be, well, if I provoked my 5-year-old before I asked this question, or I, buttered him up with some ice cream before I asked the question, you're going to get dramatically different responses. And I hadn't thought of it in this context till now, but certainly the way that I frame a discussion makes a difference.
Mhm.
Right? It's called, in psychology or in marketing, we talk about it like wherever you have the attention, wherever you're focusing people, that's what they think about. And so I will use that strategy when I'm talking to an LLM to basically say, hey, do you know what this is? Or do you understand this concept? And then it'll outline the concept and then I'll go into, okay, apply it, which generally gets me much better results than if I just said apply.
Yeah.
Right? Focusing it's and
Reiterate.
so the same thing is here from an emotional perspective, and Chuck has been saying this forever, and I feel like this has validated some of his craziness, which is like the way you speak to it matters. Like talk to it like a human being, talk to it with some empathy if that's what you want back. Now, if you want it to be a jerk, then you talk to it like a jerk, but you're going to get jerk level responses. And sometimes that means, again, it's what do I teach my 5-year-old? If you're mad, your brain isn't working. Right? Like all humans need to know that. Like if you're mad, you're not able to solve problems, your brain isn't. So there is some level of maybe that's the case here. If you make it mad enough, it's just spitting out garbage because it's I don't know. That's an interesting theory. So I don't know that I had a specific thought process as to why. I just thought it'd be interesting. But now that I'm seeing it, it does change potentially some of the ways that I'll interact with it. And particularly if I know 4.0 Mini is different than 03 Mini High and it's different than 01 and it's different than Gemini. Like once you kind of get these profiles, then it gets, I think, more useful.
Okay, so I have 2 questions based on all of that. Like one, if I was going to date one of these, which one should it be or not be? And 2, you said if you're a jerk to it, it's probably going to be a jerk back. Like, do we need more of that in the world? And that's a genuine question, because if it was just trying to mollycoddle and pacify you, that might make you just more mad, right? So I don't know, like, which is the right way to go with this?
Have you ever
Feel
seen
free to
Sesame
answer
Street?
whichever question you want.
Sesame Street.
I have.
Sesame Street, that's a British thing, right? You guys have that over there.
Yes, we have televisions.
Apologize. I'm sorry, man.
All right, so do kids hate Oscar the Grouch?
No, I love him.
He's the best, dude. Oscar's the best.
But he's a jerk. So,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's a part empathy training that they're teaching kids that, you know, some people just have different personalities. Deep down, they're softies, but, you know, they have rough exteriors. So, do we
So
need more of that? Do we need more Oscar the Grouches in the world? I mean, I don't know that we need more of them, but it would be
good to know how to
disingenuous to state or assume that there are none of them, and therefore you need to never interact that way.
I just wonder, on a different way to frame that question, if it didn't have any feeling, and obviously it doesn't feel, but it has an outward appearance of feeling, is that better than some sort of, going to use the word, soulless, kind of empty, just trying to pacify or just make sure everything's calm and in the same tone? Like that.
I'm not sure I
doesn't-
understand the question.
Well, neither of them help, right? Like, is what I'm saying is like, or do they? So, is it better if you walk into the coffee shop every day and see the same dead behind the eyes, soulless person that just kind of brings you down, even if they have the same monotonous tone, neither happy nor sad, just like blah. If you're getting that from your AI, are you going to have the same visceral emotional feeling from that? Or is it better if it mirrors your tone and reacts in the way that you'd kind of expect it to? If you're a jerk with it, it's a jerk back. Like which one? Like which way should the planet be going with this? Because everyone's going to be using this, and this could have a real effect on people's mood.
So, as a marketer, you already know the answer to that.
What? No.
This is why they allow you to do your own little system prompt adjustments so that you can actually tell, like in ChatGPT, you want it to kind of be this way or that way. It will learn from you, but those system instructions are up much higher than what it's learning from you. So it will take precedent. But at the end of the day, understand how these work. They're a token window. You're putting in half and it's giving back half. So it's literally a reflection of what you put in. Whatever you put in is the beginning of the Rube Goldberg machine. It's all the dominoes. You're setting them all up, and then you've knocked them down, and they're all just going to go. But it's your words that you put into it that are those dominoes. So you're setting up that pattern. You're making the spirals. You're making them go up this way. You're making them go that way. And when you hit enter, that's when you kick it over, and you're going to get the results from that. It's not going to be an emotional result. It's literally going to be a reflection of whatever you put in because it's calculating the result. It's cool.
Like, take your example of the barista. If you knew that the deadpan barista stopped, you know, work, switch shifts, whatever, at 8 a.m., and the happy, joyful, bubbly one that you think just, you know, kind of brightens your day and tells you how nice your tie is. Oh my gosh, your hair looks wonderful today. It starts at 8 a.m. Are you going to go at 7:59? Are you going to go at 8:01? If my goal is to get you to, as the creator of these AI tools, interact with them, I do this all the time. So we have a tool where one tool is helping write blogs and refine them, and the other tool is just posting them. Every time I take an article that I refined over here with one model and tool, and then just go put it to the posting tool, and all its job is go and put it on the website, you know, add a little formatting to it and so on. Every time the response before it says, like, what category do you want in it, what day do you want to post it? Wow, that's a really insightful post. You really address some interesting topics here, right? It does some version of this positive feedback loop.
Right.
Why doesn't it say, this wasn't really well written. Like, your thoughts here are so trite. Like, why have you not added anything new of value to the world?
Or nothing. Why doesn't it say nothing? Why does it have an opinion?
Or either, so let's put those on a paradigm. So the positive is like, yeah, I know that's pretty good, right? Like, your natural reaction, even though this is a soulless machine, is to, it's like virtual reality. You put on virtual reality and you know it's not real, but you can't help thinking you're falling off the cliff.
Mhm.
It's no different here. So then you have the neutral, which is neutral, like it did its job, it completed its task. And then you have the negative feedback. Well, if they want people to engage with these things, they're going to give it the feedback that makes them want to keep coming back. I mean, to some people, this is a horribly sad situation, but that might be the most positive feedback they get all day.
So it's just one giant millennial parenting tool, basically. It's just
Yeah, that's scary, isn't it?
And that's why it's important if it's a psychopath.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is marry ChatGPT and date Claude. That's
Oh, definitely not Grok, man.
oof.
Oof. Yeah, right. Fun to hang with, but
There'll
dude,
be a lot of yelling.
yeah, it's not gonna be a long-term deal. Yeah.
Unless, of course, you appreciate emotional roller coasters.
Oh well,
So, you have to choose. Some people just like drama.
all the drama,
So there you go.
drama.
All right. Well, next time then we'll review some more models and how they are different and how they score in these psychological tests. And maybe we'll find some additional tests to run it through.
Yeah, let's look for other tests. It's your job, Greg.
All right, that's simple enough. I'll just stare into GPT. I'll tell me which ones are right.
Exactly.
The quick question is, what are we going to test it for? Like tests or tests? What's the goal of these tests? Like Brian, you said, is it to hire a person? Because there are different tests you do for those. Because I know some therapists who say there are specific things you talk to people and whatever, and have asked certain questions. So are there specific things we want to determine about these AIs?
Well, I think this can, based on our deeper discussion of does this reflect back to us humanity, I think it comes to like some really interesting things, right? So if you then create it as some reflection of yourself, so you're a successful middle-aged male that's married with 4 kids and a full-time working wife, and now you take the test. Like, what is it going to reflect back as its belief of what I represent, right? And now this gets interesting because if I'm doing market research analysis and that's the prompt we give it to be this, that's our target market, is it going to reflect back what is real accurately? And does that vary depending on model? Because that's now a real world case scenario. We're asking it to help us generate copy or information or ads or writing or whatever for this person. And when we flip that script, does it change its psychological profile significantly to match the needs of that individual or not? Does that make sense?
The interesting thing there is if you gave it to the GPT account of the person, that'll probably more likely reflect the person's stuff than if it's just a blank model in general society.
So that gets back to Rob's question of why do I want this thing to be nice? Well, because eventually it's going to be selling people stuff.
In reality, is you have to remember that the dude from AI said it's basically just going to be an echo chamber. It's going to literally give you back what you want to hear. You're going to have your own little one that gives you what you want, your preferences, and how you like it, and how you do it, blah, blah, blah. And so that'd be interesting to see how that would be on a psychological test. Like, oh yeah, your thing is giving you crazy psychopath stuff.
Your echo chamber.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's creative. I don't know. I'd have to think a little bit about how we could create the Greg AI based on your interactions with Chuck's, because it's certainly not complete. I don't have the same conversations with AI that I have with other people. But it might
Chuck,
be
you could probably just take Chuck
scarily
account.
accurate. It might be disturbingly accurate.
Well, all these new trends, like make me a Barbie bot or a Barbie doll or whatever they call it, like action figure.
No, I don't know these trends.
Come on, man.
Yeah. And there's another one, I think Rob shared it, which I think was like, what was it? It was some kind of personality or like, what's my.
That's me.
Oh, no, there you go. And there's one like, hey, what Anna's done one that's like, make a picture of me. What do you think I look like? Right? And so it does have a fairly good analysis of us.
I haven't seen her picture. That's actually kind of funny. That is awesome though. I love I don't know why solar power's in a jar, but
yeah, that was kind of weird, wasn't it? Solar
maybe
power
you're
in a
telling
jar.
it things that are weird. I don't know. It's a rudimentary battery. It's just got your anode and your cathode sticking right in that little jar somehow. All right. wrap it up there.